The Qin Empire had long been an iron fist ruling over China, its grip unrelenting and harsh. Yet, in the dying embers of its reign, as rebellion sparked from every corner of the land, one name rose from the ranks of the commoners: Liu Bang. Born into the unremarkable life of a minor official, Liu Bang's ambition burned brighter than any noble lineage. It was in the chaos of these final years that Liu Bang found his fate intertwined with that of two powerful women. Liu Ji, a woman of sharp intellect and quiet ambition, and Consort Qi, the woman whose beauty and charm would ensnare him, sowing seeds of love and rivalry that would alter the course of history. Liu Bang was a man of contradictions, cunning yet honest, ambitious yet humble. His rise to power was not swift, nor was it marked by the sudden brilliance of military victories. Instead, it was a steady climb, built upon alliances and a deep understanding of human nature. He was, after all, a man of the people, not the nobility, and he relied heavily on his ability to gather followers and outwit his opponents. Among these early followers was Liu Ji, a woman born into a modest family but with aspirations far greater than her birth would suggest. Liu Ji was not a woman of great beauty, nor was she immediately captivating in the way that many men might expect of a powerful woman. However, it was her sharp mind, deep understanding of the world around her, and unyielding ambition that drew Liu Bang to her. They first met during the early days of rebellion, when Liu Bang's forces began to grow in numbers and strength, challenging the oppressive rule of the Qin Empire. Liu Ji, keen to align herself with a rising star, saw in Liu Bang not just a leader, but a partner who could help her secure her place in the world. Liu Ji's influence on Liu Bang was profound. She was pragmatic, calculating, and knew how to navigate the treacherous waters of court politics long before Liu Bang ever ascended to the throne. She was the one who ensured his camps remained supplied and that their alliances with other rebel factions were secure. But more than that, she understood the nature of power, how to gain it, how to hold it, and how to wield it effectively. Liu Bang, recognizing her abilities, soon entrusted her with managing much of his internal affairs, allowing him to focus on the battles that would define his legacy. As Liu Bang's power grew, so too did Liu Ji's position within his camp. She became more than just his partner. She became his confidant, his advisor, and the woman who would, in time, become his wife. Their bond was forged in the fires of rebellion and strengthened by shared goals: Liu Bang's desire for a new empire and Liu Ji's desire for a place of power within it. Yet, as their relationship deepened, another force began to stir within Liu Bang's heart, a force that would come to rival his love for Liu Ji. This force was Consort Qi. Consort Qi was a woman whose beauty was legendary, whose charm could captivate any man who laid eyes upon her. She was not, first, a political figure. She had no grand ambitions, nor did she seek to influence the course of history. She was a woman of grace, a woman of quiet strength, and yet, it was her beauty that would set the stage for one of the most tumultuous love triangles in Chinese history. Liu Bang's attraction to Consort Qi was immediate and intense. Who had entered his life as a partner in the struggle for power, Consort Qi entered as a lover, a symbol of the pleasures of life, a momentary escape from the weight of war and politics. Liu Bang's initial infatuation with her was not rooted in power or ambition, but in pure desire. She embodied everything that Liu Ji was not: soft, gentle, and seemingly free from the burdens of politics. The first meeting between Liu Bang and Consort Qi is recorded in history as a moment of irresistible attraction. It was during a visit to the camp where Liu Bang was stationed, a time when the tide of war was turning in his favor. Consort Qi was part of a caravan of noble women, captured as spoils of war and brought before Liu Bang. She stood out immediately, not just for her beauty, but for her presence. There was something about her that drew Liu Bang in, something he couldn't resist. Who had always been practical and grounded, Consort Qi represented the life Liu Bang could never have as a commoner. She was a symbol of indulgence, of luxury, of a life beyond the hardships of war. For Liu Bang, she became a brief escape from the chaos surrounding him, a brief respite from the weight of his own ambitions. But what began as a fleeting attraction quickly became something far deeper. Liu Bang's feelings for Consort Qi were not just those of a conqueror. He saw in her a kindred spirit, someone who understood the complexities of life and, perhaps, a companion in the turbulent times ahead. Yet, even as he found solace in her presence, he knew the consequences of his actions would be far-reaching, and Liu Ji, his wife, would not remain ignorant of his growing affection for another woman. Liu Ji, however, was no fool. She had long known that Liu Bang was a man of appetites, that his love for her was only one part of the equation. She had seen his eyes linger on other women, and she had watched the way he interacted with Consort Qi. But what Liu Ji also knew, what no one else saw, was that Liu Bang's feelings for Consort Qi were not purely based on lust. There was something deeper at play, something more political, something that could alter the course of their futures. Liu Ji's response was not one of jealousy or anger, but of quiet calculation. She knew that in order to maintain her own position and that of her children, she had to secure Liu Bang's loyalty. To lose him to Consort Qi would be disastrous. But more than that, she knew that if she could manage the situation, if she could use her own influence over Liu Bang, she could ensure that her children would inherit the empire, not Consort Qi's. Thus, the first seeds of rivalry were planted. Liu Ji, ever the tactician, set into motion a plan to ensure her own family's future, while Liu Bang found himself torn between the two women who now held dominion over his heart, and, unknowingly, over the fate of China. The Qin Empire's collapse brought about a nation in turmoil. Rivers of blood flowed from the blood-stained fields where the last battles of the brutal regime were fought. But as the central authority crumbled, a new order began to take shape, built on ambition, blood, and betrayal. Among the chaos, one man rose from the ranks of the peasants to become the most powerful figure in China, Liu Bang. And as his destiny unfolded, so too did the intertwining fates of two women, Liu Ji, the clever and pragmatic partner who would secure Liu Bang's rise, and Consort Qi, the beautiful and charming woman who would eventually steal his heart. At the time, Liu Bang was a mere regional leader, known for his wits more than his strength. He had little wealth or noble lineage, but his capacity to inspire loyalty was unparalleled. He had assembled a diverse army of peasants, bandits, and defectors from the Qin ranks, unlike his rival Xiong Yu, whose noble bloodline and military prowess were more readily acknowledged by others. Liu Bang's army was forged from the struggles of the common people, united under the flag of rebellion against the tyrannical Qin regime. In the final years of the Qin dynasty, his army grew steadily as they pushed westward, gaining both experience and momentum. During this time, Liu Bang encountered Liu Ji, a woman whose beauty was understated, yet whose intelligence and ambition would prove more valuable than her outward appearance suggested. Liu Ji, born into a family of humble means, had not been raised with the privileges of nobility. However, she had grown up with an understanding of the fragility of power and the cunning needed to survive in such an uncertain world. She was not unlike Liu Bang in that respect. Both were outsiders, both driven by a hunger for something greater than their circumstances. Liu Ji's keen sense of observation had told her early on that to survive in this new world, one had to possess both strength and guile. In Liu Bang, she saw not just the leader of a rebellion, but someone who, like her, was willing to challenge the established order in pursuit of something greater. Her first encounter with Liu Bang was at a regional meeting of rebel leaders, where she impressed him with her ability to negotiate and broker alliances between different factions. Liu Bang, who had already garnered a reputation for understanding human nature, immediately recognized that Liu Ji was more than a mere ally, she was a partner. Their partnership grew quickly, and it wasn't long before Liu Ji became Liu Bang's closest confidant. Where Liu Bang was impulsive, Liu Ji was measured. Where Liu Bang was outwardly charismatic, Liu Ji worked behind the scenes, weaving together the political webs that would secure their rise to power. Her intelligence was invaluable, but so too was her ability to see the bigger picture. Liu Bang trusted her implicitly, sharing with her both his grandest dreams and his deepest doubts. Their relationship was one of respect and mutual benefit, but also of growing affection. Liu Ji admired Liu Bang's ambition and tenacity, while Liu Bang respected Liu Ji's intelligence and political savvy. It was this shared sense of purpose, along with the trust they built over years of battle and hardship, that formed the foundation of their eventual marriage. However, despite the closeness that grew between them, Liu Bang's heart was not entirely loyal to Liu Ji. He was a man who sought not just power, but also the pleasures of life, pleasures that, for all her virtues, Liu Ji could not provide in the same way as another woman. It was at this point that Consort Qi entered the picture. Consort Qi's appearance in Liu Bang's life was far more dramatic than Liu Ji's quiet, strategic rise to power. She came from an affluent family, a noblewoman whose beauty was renowned throughout the land. Where Liu Ji had ascended through cunning and wisdom, Consort Qi arrived with the undeniable power of her allure. She did not need to speak in the same way Liu Ji did. Her beauty alone spoke volumes. Her grace, charm, and elegance captivated Liu Bang immediately. It was during a military campaign, where Liu Bang's forces had successfully defeated a significant Qin faction, that Consort Qi became a part of his life. She was one of many captives taken in the aftermath of the battle. But it didn't take long for Liu Bang to see her not just as a prize of war, but as someone far more important, whose tactical mind had always been his anchor. Consort Qi represented something entirely different, an escape, a brief moment of indulgence, and a reminder of the world Liu Bang was fighting for. From the very moment Liu Bang laid eyes on Consort Qi, there was an undeniable attraction. But what began as a momentary affair quickly grew into a much deeper connection. Liu Bang found himself drawn to her, not only because of her beauty but also because of her intelligence. Though Consort Qi was not as politically astute as Liu Ji, she was perceptive in other ways. She had an innate understanding of people and could read the room better than most. Liu Bang found in her a companion who could provide him comfort amidst the chaos, someone who would, for a time, soften the edges of the brutal world he inhabited. Liu Ji, however, was no naive fool. As the woman closest to Liu Bang, she had already sensed the growing attraction between him and Consort Qi. In the early days of their relationship, Liu Ji had dismissed it as nothing more than a passing fancy. She knew Liu Bang, he was a man of desires, but he was also a man of loyalty. Yet, as time passed, Liu Ji could no longer ignore the shift in Liu Bang's behavior. He was more distracted, more distant. His eyes lingered on Consort Qi longer than they ever had on her. Liu Ji began to see the first cracks in the armor of their bond. But Liu Ji was not one to act hastily. She understood the delicate nature of power better than anyone, and she knew that she had to secure her place and her family's future within this new regime. If Liu Bang's affections for Consort Qi were to jeopardize that, Liu Ji would not allow it. She had already secured her position as Liu Bang's wife, and her influence in the rebellion was indispensable. The Consort Qi sought to supplant her. Liu Ji would take action. Liu Ji's response to Liu Bang's infatuation was calculated. Even as it pained her, she did not confront him outright, but she began to subtly work to regain his attention. She did so by becoming even more indispensable, ensuring that Liu Bang's logistical needs were met, advising him on matters of governance, and supporting his cause in every way possible. She also took to cultivating relationships with other key figures within the rebellion, building alliances and strengthening her position. She would not be sidelined so easily. At the same time, Liu Ji worked to cement her place in Liu Bang's heart by giving him what Consort Qi could not: stability, loyalty, and the promise of a future built together. She knew that her political maneuvering could win her Liu Bang's respect. but it was her ability to keep their shared dreams alive that would ultimately ensure her position. As Liu Bang continued to struggle with his feelings for both women, he found himself increasingly torn between the stability of Liu Ji and the fleeting passion of Consort Qi. The political implications of his actions weighed heavily on him. He could not afford to alienate Liu Ji, whose political insights were invaluable. Nor could he ignore the fact that Consort Qi had borne him a son, a child who could one day be the key to his future. Liu Bang was not a man who sought to choose between the two women, and as his empire began to take shape, he attempted to balance his life as best he could. But his heart was divided, and in the shadows of his rise to power, a quiet war was being waged not with swords, but with whispers, intrigues, and the subtle power plays of those closest to him. And so, the stage was set for the dramatic events that would unfold in the coming years. Liu Ji, whose cunning and loyalty had made her Liu Bang's right hand, would continue to play a pivotal role in his success. Consort Qi, whose beauty and charm had captured his heart, would become an increasingly powerful figure in her own right. And Liu Bang, caught between these two women, would find that the greatest challenge of his life would not be the wars he fought on the battlefield, but the battle that raged within his own heart. The years following Liu Bang's victory at Gaixia marked a turning point in the history of China. The fall of the Qin dynasty, once thought invincible, had shattered the existing order and left a vacuum of power. Liu Bang, emerging from the chaos, was determined to carve out a legacy for himself and his family. His ambitions were vast, and the weight of ruling an entire empire was heavier than he could have ever imagined. But among the many challenges he faced, the most personal and perhaps the most dangerous lay in the realm of his heart. Liu Bang's rise to power was not just a matter of military conquest. While his prowess as a strategist and leader had led him to victory, it was his ability to navigate the intricate web of politics and relationships that ultimately secured his position as the first emperor of the Han Dynasty. At the center of these relationships were two women, each representing a different path in Liu Bang's life, and each holding a piece of his heart. Liu Ji, the woman who had been by his side since the early days of the rebellion, had secured her place not only as his wife but as his closest ally. Her intelligence, her political acumen, and her unwavering loyalty had made her indispensable to Liu Bang's ascent. Yet, despite her status and the role she played in his success, there was something Liu Bang sought elsewhere. That something was found in Consort Qi, whose beauty and charm drew Liu Bang's affections like a moth to the flame. Consort Qi was unlike Liu Ji in many ways. Where Liu Ji was practical, sharp, and quietly ambitious, Consort Qi was enchanting, her presence commanding attention wherever she went. Though her beauty was her greatest asset, it was not her only one. She had a way of making Liu Bang feel at peace, a respite from the ceaseless pressures of rule. In her company, he found the calm he desperately needed after the storm of battle and politics. The bond between them, born from an affair that began as a fleeting moment during his military campaigns, had evolved into something far deeper. For a time, Liu Bang was content to keep the two women separate in his life. Liu Ji, with her deep understanding of governance, had taken on the role of managing the empire, ensuring that the Han Dynasty began to take shape. Meanwhile, Consort Qi offered Liu Bang a different kind of solace, a reprieve from the constant demands of ruling. But as the years passed, the lines between these two spheres began to blur, and the consequences of Liu Bang's divided affections began to take their toll. Liu Ji, though calm and composed on the surface, was not blind to the growing bond between Liu Bang and Consort Qi. She had long known that Liu Bang's affections were not fixed solely on her, but the realization that Consort Qi was becoming more than just a passing fancy was a bitter pill to swallow. Liu Ji's own ambitions had always been tied to the success of Liu Bang, and she understood that her position in the court and her family's future depended on securing her place by his side. But as Consort Qi's influence over Liu Bang grew, Liu Ji felt increasingly threatened. She was not a woman to act in haste, But she knew she could not afford to ignore the growing danger to her own position. While Liu Ji spent her days managing the delicate politics of the court, quietly strengthening her influence over the key players in the empire, Consort Qi was far more direct in her approach. Her beauty alone made her a figure of power in the palace. But she knew that it would not be enough to secure her future. She had borne Liu Bang a son, and with that, her position as the mother of the emperor's heir was solidified. But Consort Qi was not content to rest on the laurels of her motherhood. She knew that the game of power was more than just about who bore the children. It was about who held the emperor's heart, and Liu Bang's heart was divided. For a time, it seemed as though Liu Bang could keep the peace between the two women. He would spend time with Liu Ji, consulting her on matters of state and governance, and then retreat to Consort Qi's chambers for moments of rest and solace. But as the years went by, the cracks in this delicate arrangement began to widen. Liu Ji, ever the political strategist, had always known that her relationship with Liu Bang was not just personal. It was built on a foundation of mutual ambition. She had helped him rise to power, had been his closest advisor during the most critical moments of his rebellion. But she also understood the limits of her power. She could not keep Liu Bang's heart if it was no longer hers to hold. The rivalry between Liu Ji and Consort Qi reached a boiling point as Liu Bang's rule solidified. The empire was in a fragile state, and the newly crowned emperor needed to secure his hold on power. His court was rife with intrigue, with various factions vying for favor. Liu Ji, though a loyal and trusted advisor, had to contend with the growing influence of Consort Qi, who, as the mother of the emperor's heir, had her own set of supporters within the court. Though Liu Bang was technically the ruler, the reality of power was much more complex than it appeared on the surface. Consort Qi's rise to prominence was not purely based on Liu Bang's affection for her. She was shrewd, understanding that her position was not guaranteed simply because of the love she shared with the emperor. She began to cultivate relationships with key figures in the court, gaining the support of influential ministers and generals who saw her as a figure with whom they could align themselves. Her son, now a young prince, was the key to her future. She made sure that Liu Bang's affections for her remained strong, ensuring that the emperor saw her not only as a lover but as a crucial ally in his efforts to stabilize the empire. Liu Ji, meanwhile, had her own ambitions for her children. While Consort Qi focused on her son's future, Liu Ji's eyes were on her own family, determined to see her children rise to prominence as well. She knew that the key to Liu Bang's continued favor lay not in his heart, but in his vision for the future of the Han Dynasty, and she intended to ensure that her family played a central role in that future. As the years wore on, Liu Bang's indecision grew. He was a man of great ambition, but he was also a man of great passions. His love for Consort Qi was genuine, and yet, his respect and reliance on Liu Ji were equally strong. The power struggle between the two women was not just personal. It was about the future of the Han Dynasty itself. Each woman sought to position her children as heirs to the throne, and Liu Bang, caught between the two, found himself in a delicate balancing act. It was during this period of tension that the court began to whisper of succession. Liu Bang had not yet named an heir, and both Liu Ji and Consort Qi knew that this was the moment that would define their futures. Consort Qi, leveraging her position as the mother of Liu Bang's firstborn son, made her case for her child's ascension to the throne. Liu Ji, ever the strategist, began to push her own son forward, using her political influence to secure alliances with the most powerful lords in the court. The stakes had never been higher, as the tension between Liu Ji and Consort Qi reached its peak. The political landscape of the Han Dynasty was on the brink of change. The future of the empire and the fate of Liu Bang's children hung in the balance. Liu Bang, caught between the two women who had shaped his life in different ways, would soon have to make a choice that would echo throughout history. The rivalry between Liu Ji and Consort Qi would be the catalyst that determined the course of the dynasty, and it was only a matter of time before one of them would emerge victorious. The story of Liu Bang. Liu Ji, And Consort Qi was far from over. It was a tale of love, ambition, and power, a tale that would shape the destiny of an empire for generations to come. The tumultuous years following Liu Bang's consolidation of power as the first emperor of the Han Dynasty were marked not just by his military conquests, but by the political battles fought within the imperial court. These internal struggles, hidden behind the walls of the palace and the veil of court etiquette, were no less dangerous than any battle fought on the field. For Liu Bang, the war that loomed closest was not one waged against external enemies, but the one that threatened to tear apart his closest relationships. At the heart of this conflict lay the rivalry between Liu Ji, his wife and the mother of his children, and Consort Qi, the woman who had borne him his firstborn son. The rise of Consort Qi's influence was something that had never gone unnoticed by Liu Ji. Though outwardly the two women had maintained a semblance of cordiality, the competition between them was ever present. Simmering beneath the surface, Liu Bang's heart, it seemed, was a battleground that neither woman could easily claim. And though his affection for Consort Qi was undeniable, it was Liu Ji who had been with him since the beginning, the one who had borne the hardships of war and the struggles of his ascent. She had been his partner in every sense of the word, helping to build his empire from the ground up. And now, as the dynasty was being shaped in real time, Liu Ji knew that her future, and the future of her family, was directly tied to the political dynamics of the palace. At the same time, Consort Qi's position as the mother of Liu Bang's heir gave her a unique claim to power. She was no longer just a concubine. She was the matriarch of Liu Bang's bloodline, and her son, the young prince, was the future of the Han Dynasty. Liu Bang had always been a man driven by his passions, and his love for Consort Qi had become a defining part of his rule. In the early days of his reign, Consort Qi's beauty and grace had offered him respite from the stresses of ruling a vast empire. But as time passed, her role in his life had evolved into something far more influential. She was no longer just his lover. She was his confidant, a woman whose opinion he valued. Yet, as Liu Bang continued to grapple with the realities of his newfound power, the divide between Liu Ji and Consort Qi deepened. Both women were formidable in their own right, but their influence and methods could not have been more different. Liu Ji, with her sharp intellect and deep understanding of governance, was the power behind the throne. She had helped Liu Bang win the loyalty of his most important ministers and generals, and she had been instrumental in ensuring the stability of the newly formed empire. In contrast, Consort Qi's influence was more personal. She was the woman who soothed Liu Bang's weary soul, offering him comfort and peace when the burdens of empire became too much to bear. But in a world where political alliances were everything, comfort was not enough. Liu Ji had always known that her position was fragile. Despite her many accomplishments, she was not of noble birth, and the lingering memory of her humble origins was a constant reminder of the precariousness of her position. In the eyes of the court, Liu Ji was a commoner who had risen above her station, and though she had done so with grace and skill, there were always those who saw her as an outsider. Her only true claim to power was her closeness to Liu Bang. But with Consort Qi's growing influence, Liu Ji's position began to feel less secure. In the early years of Liu Bang's reign, the political landscape had been dominated by the warlords who had helped him overthrow the Qin dynasty. These men, though loyal to Liu Bang, were still ambitious and wary of each other. The power struggles between them were constant, and Liu Bang had to balance the various factions, ensuring that none grew too powerful. Liu Ji had been instrumental in these negotiations, using her intelligence and diplomatic skills to navigate the delicate relationships between the warlords and the imperial court. But as Liu Bang became more entrenched in his role as emperor, the stakes grew higher. The men who had once fought for him now looked for ways to secure their own futures, and Liu Bang had to navigate their ambitions while also keeping the peace between his two most powerful allies, his wife and his concubine. While Liu Ji worked tirelessly to maintain the stability of the empire, Consort Qi's role continued to evolve. As the mother of Liu Bang's firstborn son, she understood that her son's future was inextricably linked to her own power. The political game in the Han court was a treacherous one, and Consort Qi, though a woman of beauty and charm, was no fool. She understood the delicate balance between affection and power, and she used Liu Bang's affection for her to her advantage. Every smile, every word of comfort, was calculated to ensure that her position remained secure. And, of course, she kept her eyes firmly fixed on the throne. Her son was the heir, and she would do everything in her power to ensure that he inherited the crown. Liu Ji, however, was not one to be easily outmaneuvered. She had always understood the importance of alliances, and she knew that the future of the Han Dynasty depended on who controlled the Imperial court. The rivalry between her and Consort Qi was not just about love. It was about securing the future of their children, the future of the empire itself. And Liu Ji was determined that her son, not Consort Qi's, would inherit the throne. The struggle for power within the palace reached its climax when Liu Bang fell seriously ill. Though he was not yet an old man, the weight of ruling a vast empire had taken its toll on him. His health had always been a point of concern, and now, with the empire at a critical juncture, Liu Bang found himself facing a new kind of battle, one that would require him to make a decision that would determine the future of the Han Dynasty. His illness, though not immediately fatal, left him weak and bedridden for months. In this time of vulnerability, the power struggles in the court intensified. Both Liu Ji and Consort Qi saw this as the moment to push their agendas forward. Liu Ji, ever the strategist, seized the opportunity to secure her son's position. She worked quickly, forming alliances with key generals and ministers who were loyal to her and to Liu Bang's vision for the empire. These men were well aware of the dangers posed by Consort Qi's growing influence, and many of them were eager to support Liu Ji's efforts to ensure the stability of the Han Dynasty.
Liu Ji, his son,
though still young, was being groomed to succeed Liu Bang, and Liu Ji made sure that his future was secure. She knew that once Liu Bang recovered from his illness, the political landscape would shift once again, and she had to make sure her son was positioned as the rightful heir. Consort Qi, however, was not idle. She too understood the fragility of her position. Liu Bang's love for her had always been a source of strength, but in the cutthroat world of the Imperial court, love alone was not enough to guarantee survival. Consort Qi knew that her son's future depended on her ability to maintain Liu Bang's affections and to solidify her power within the court, while Liu Ji worked to secure the loyalty of the court's officials. Consort Qi turned to her own network of supporters, those who had once fought alongside Liu Bang in the rebellion and who were now entrenched in the inner workings of the palace. She needed them to secure her son's future, and she needed to ensure that her son would sit on the throne after Liu Bang's death. As the months dragged on and Liu Bang's health remained precarious, the rivalry between Liu Ji and Consort Qi came to a head. Each woman fought for her son's future with everything she had, manipulating the court, forging alliances, and exploiting every opportunity to further her cause. The tensions between them grew so intense that even Liu Bang, though weakened by his illness, could sense the shifting tides. He knew that his time on the throne was limited, and he knew that the decisions he made in the coming months would shape the future of the dynasty he had fought so hard to build. In the end, Liu Bang's illness did not claim his life. He recovered, though the scars of his illness remained. But by then, the political landscape of the Han court had been irrevocably altered. Liu Ji had secured her position, and her son was now the undisputed heir to the throne. Consort Qi, though still favored by Liu Bang, had lost much of her influence. The rivalry between the two women had shaped the course of history, and the future of the Han Dynasty had been decided by the actions of these two powerful women. In the years to come, Liu Ji would become the Empress of the Han Dynasty, while Consort Qi's influence waned. The political game that had played out behind the closed doors of the palace had shaped the future of the empire. And though Liu Bang's reign continued for many more years, the legacy of his rivalry with Consort Qi and Liu Ji would live on in the annals of history. In the years that followed Liu Bang's recovery, the political landscape of the Han court shifted irrevocably. Though his health had stabilized, the illness he endured had weakened him. His body, once strong from years of military campaigns, now seemed frail and vulnerable. His time was running out, and the final years of his reign were marked by the heavy burden of the decisions he had to make concerning the future of the empire. The legacy of the Han Dynasty rested not only on his shoulders but on the struggle between the two women who had shaped his life, Liu Ji and Consort Qi. Liu Ji's position, now firmly entrenched within the inner workings of the imperial court, was as powerful as ever. She had weathered the political storm of Liu Bang's illness and emerged as the undisputed force behind the Han Dynasty. Over the years, Liu Ji had proven herself to be more than just a loyal wife. She had become the empress of the realm in every sense of the word. Her intelligence, her political savvy, and her ability to manage the empire's internal and external affairs had made her indispensable to Liu Bang's rule. Even though he had taken numerous concubines over the years, Liu Ji remained his closest advisor, the one he trusted above all others. Yet, she was not blind to the growing influence of Consort Qi, whose beauty, charm, and connection to Liu Bang's bloodline had cemented her as a powerful figure in the court. For Consort Qi, the years following Liu Bang's illness were a bitter pill to swallow. Though Liu Bang had never ceased to show her affection, the power she had once wielded had significantly diminished. She had lost her once secure position in the imperial court, and the whispers of her diminished power reached the ears of her supporters. The delicate balance of favor she had maintained was shifting away from her, and with it, her influence over Liu Bang was waning. Yet, despite the challenges she faced, Consort Qi remained determined. Her son, the young prince, was still the heir to the throne, and her resolve was to see him secure that future. Liu Ji, on the other hand, had become the supreme political strategist. The years of maneuvering within the court had made her a master of alliances and betrayals. She knew that the key to securing her son's place on the throne lay in the support of the military, the generals, and the powerful officials who had helped Liu Bang carve out the empire in the first place. These men had been loyal to Liu Bang, but they were just as quick to shift their allegiances if it meant securing their own futures. Liu Ji had worked tirelessly to ensure that her son would inherit the throne, and over the years, she had used her influence to place key allies in strategic positions across the empire. She was a force to be reckoned with, and Liu Bang knew it. Despite his affection for Consort Qi, he could not ignore the power that Liu Ji wielded. But the question of succession hung heavy in the air, and the rivalry between Liu Ji and Consort Qi grew ever more intense. Liu Bang, though weakened by age and illness, had made a decision that would change the course of history. Despite his deep affection for Consort Qi and his genuine love for her son, he knew that Liu Ji's political acumen and the loyalty of her supporters made her the stronger candidate to secure the stability of the empire. It was a decision that would send shockwaves through the palace and the empire at large.
Liu Zihi's son.
Liu Ying had been groomed for leadership from an early age. As the eldest of Liu Bang's children, Liu Ying was the natural heir to the throne. Liu Ji had ensured that her son was well educated, taught in the ways of governance, military strategy, and diplomacy. Liu Ying had the backing of the most powerful officials in the empire, and his mother's influence ensured that his path to the throne was clear. But while Liu Ji's political strategies were solid, she had to contend with the fact that Liu Ying was still young and inexperienced. Though he had the support of the court's most powerful figures, it was unclear whether he could hold his ground once he ascended to the throne. Consort Qi, aware that her son's claim to the throne was tenuous, redoubled her efforts. She knew that her son, Liu Rui, had the same right to the throne as Liu Ying. His bloodline was no less royal, and Liu Bang had shown deep affection for him. Consort Qi, though losing ground politically, clung to the hope that her son's claim would not be ignored. She sought out new allies, strengthening her network within the court, and began to focus her efforts on securing Liu Bang's final decision. If Liu Bang could be convinced to name her son as his successor, it would secure her position and her legacy for generations to come. The struggle for the throne was not just about power, it was about the future of the Han Dynasty itself. As the years passed, Liu Bang's condition continued to decline. He had not yet formally named a successor, and the question of who would inherit the throne remained unresolved. The tension in the palace was palpable, with both Liu Ji and Consort Qi maneuvering to secure their son's future. The court was rife with intrigue, with ministers and generals quietly taking sides, each aware of the potential consequences of Liu Bang's decision. In the face of his weakening health, Liu Bang knew that time was running out. It was at this critical juncture that an unexpected event occurred. Consort Qi, who had always been able to rely on her beauty and charm to win favor with Liu Bang, made a bold move. She knew that the only way to secure her son's future was to take matters into her own hands. In a daring move, she convinced Liu Bang to summon her to his chambers. There, she would make her final plea. A plea not only for her son's future, but for her place in the history of the Han Dynasty. Liu Ji, ever the astute strategist, was not blind to what was happening. She had always known that Consort Qi would make a final play for the throne, and she had prepared for this moment. Liu Ji, who had always controlled the palace from the shadows, would not let Consort Qi's ambition threaten the future she had worked so hard to secure for her son. She had one final card to play, one final move that would ensure her victory. The day Liu Bang summoned both women to his presence, the air in the Imperial palace was thick with anticipation. The two women, once allies, now stood on opposite sides, their rivalry having reached its zenith. The moment had arrived for Liu Bang to make his choice. But what no one knew was that Liu Bang, weakened and frail, had already made up his mind. The emperor, aware of the fractures in his court and the threats to the stability of his empire, had come to a decision that would shock everyone, including Liu Ji and Consort Qi. As both women entered Liu Bang's chamber, the emperor greeted them with a calm demeanor, but his eyes, filled with the weight of his years, told a different story. For Liu Bang, the decision that lay before him was not just about power, it was about ensuring that the Han Dynasty would survive long after his death. Liu Bang turned to Liu Ji first, acknowledging her tireless dedication to the empire. He knew that it was she who had truly built the foundation of the dynasty, and that without her, the empire would have faltered. He then turned to Consort Qi, acknowledging her loyalty and the sacrifices she had made for the sake of his lineage. He knew that both women had played pivotal roles in his rise to power. And then, with a heavy heart, Liu Bang made his final decision. He named Liu Ji's son, Liu Ying, as the heir to the throne. Consort Qi's son, Liu Rui, would be placed in a position of honor, but he would not inherit the crown. It was a decision that would echo throughout the history of the Han Dynasty, and it would set the stage for the future struggles that would follow. The news of Liu Bang's decision sent shockwaves through the court. Liu Ji had emerged victorious, but the victory was bittersweet. Her son would inherit the throne, but the rivalry that had shaped their lives would leave scars that would never heal. And so, the stage was set for the next chapter of the Han Dynasty. The struggle for power, love, and legacy was far from over. The empire was in its infancy, and the political landscape would continue to shift as new players entered the game. But the rivalry between Liu Ji and Consort Qi, two women who had shaped the destiny of an empire, had reached its conclusion. For now, as the years passed, the decision that Liu Bang had made, the one that would shape the future of the Han Dynasty, echoed through the corridors of the Imperial Palace. Its repercussions felt not just by the immediate players involved, but by the entire empire. The rivalry between Liu Ji and Consort Qi, which had been so fraught with personal ambition and political calculation, reached its dramatic conclusion with Liu Ying being named the heir. But the political landscape was far from settled, and the aftermath of Liu Bang's decision would only further entrench the power struggles that had been festering beneath the surface of the Han court. Though Liu Ji's son, Liu Ying, had been named the successor, His youth and inexperience left him vulnerable. Liu Bang, though well-educated and supported by the most powerful factions in the empire, lacked the cunning and ruthlessness that had characterized his mother's ascent. Liu Ji, aware of her son's weaknesses, took the reins in the early years of his reign, ruling through him and ensuring that the empire remained firmly under her control. Her political acumen, forged through years of navigating the treacherous world of the palace, made her an effective regent, but it also made her a target. Those who had once supported her and her rise to power began to grow resentful of her dominance, and whispers of rebellion started to stir. Meanwhile, Consort Qi, though deeply wounded by the emperor's decision, was far from finished. Her son, Liu Rui, though not named the heir, had not been completely discarded. Liu Bang had placed him in a position of honor within the court, and Consort Qi, ever calculating, began to cultivate a network of supporters who remained loyal to her bloodline. Though the loss of the throne stung deeply, she was not a woman to be underestimated. She knew that the game was far from over and that in the palace, power was never truly permanent. There would be new opportunities, new alliances, and, perhaps, a chance for her son to claim the throne once more. The first test of Liu Ji's power came with the unexpected death of Liu Bang in 195 BCE. His passing, though not a surprise given his declining health, was a pivotal moment for the Han Dynasty. The old emperor had been a unifying figure, the one who had forged the empire from the ashes of war. His death, though anticipated, sent shockwaves through the court. The question of succession that had loomed over the last years of Liu Bang's reign was now a reality.
Liu Zi's son.
Liu Bang would ascend the throne as Emperor Hui of Han, but it was clear to all that the true power behind the throne would remain with Liu Ji, at least for the time being. Liu Ji, now Empress Dowager, assumed full control over the imperial court. Her son, Emperor Hui, though technically the ruler, was a mere figurehead. He had neither the strength nor the political skill to assert his authority, and Liu Ji did not hesitate to ensure that her influence was absolute. She had spent years preparing for this moment, and now that it had arrived, she intended to consolidate her power. But as with all things in the palace, the stability of Liu Ji's position was tenuous at best. Her authority was not without its challenges, and the very alliances she had built over the years began to fracture. The court, once united under Liu Bang, was now a battlefield of factions vying for power. Ministers, generals, and officials who had once owed their loyalty to Liu Bang were now looking for new allegiances. Many of them saw Liu Ji as a threat to their own ambitions, and some began to quietly plot against her. One such plot came from the most unlikely of sources: Liu Bang's old allies, men who had helped him defeat the Qin Empire and establish the Han Dynasty. These veterans of the rebellion, who had once stood by Liu Bang through thick and thin, now turned their eyes to the future. They saw that Liu Ji, with her iron grip on the throne, was not a ruler they could tolerate for long. Her influence was becoming too great, and their fear of her growing dominance led them to seek out a new leader, one who might restore their former glory. At the same time, Consort Qi, ever patient and calculating, was watching the situation unfold from the sidelines. Though she had lost the throne for her son, she had not lost hope. She had kept a low profile during Liu Bang's last years, waiting for the moment when she could strike. Now that Liu Ji had assumed control, Consort Qi saw an opportunity to build a coalition of her own. She began reaching out to those who were dissatisfied with Liu Ji's rule, offering them the promise of a better future under her son's leadership. Her supporters, though not as numerous as Liu Ji's, were loyal, and she knew that, in times of uncertainty, loyalty was a commodity far more valuable than numbers. In the years following Liu Bang's death, Liu Ji's position seemed secure, but cracks began to appear in her authority. The ministers and generals who had once supported her now started to openly question her rule. The younger officials, eager to make their mark, were less inclined to defer to her power, and the younger generation of the imperial family, including Liu Bang's other sons, began to challenge her dominance. One of the most significant threats to Liu Ji came in the form of her own son, Emperor Hui. Though Liu Ying had ascended to the throne, he lacked the political skill to navigate the palace intrigue that had engulfed the court. He was a weak ruler, more interested in indulging his personal desires than in making the tough decisions that were required to maintain the empire's stability. Liu Ji, who had once seen her son as the key to her own power, now found herself holding onto that power with an increasingly fragile grip. It was clear that Emperor Hui would not be able to maintain the empire without her, and her continued control over the imperial court was increasingly seen as a necessary evil. Liu Ji's control was further weakened by the rise of new factions within the court. The most dangerous of these was led by a group of ambitious young officials who sought to challenge the old order. These men, eager to carve out their own destinies, began to form alliances with generals and former rivals of Liu Ji. Their goal was clear: to overthrow the Empress Dowager and place one of their own in power. Among them was a man who would become one of the most significant figures in the history of the Han Dynasty, Zhang Liang, a brilliant strategist who had once been a loyal supporter of Liu Bang. Zhang Liang had grown disillusioned with Liu Ji's rule and saw an opportunity to seize power for himself. He quickly became the leader of the faction that sought to depose the Empress Dowager and restore the balance of power to the court. But the most significant turning point came with the return of Consort Qi's son, Liu Rui. Though Liu Bang had not named him the heir, Liu Rui had not been forgotten. He had grown into a capable young man, respected by the court and feared by those who had wronged his mother. Consort Qi, seeing the political shifts in the court, decided that the time had come to make her move. With the help of her loyal supporters, she staged a bold move to have her son named the rightful heir to the throne. The struggle for the throne became a deadly game of power and betrayal. Liu Ji, now a woman who had once been the most powerful figure in the court, found herself in a precarious position. Her son, Emperor Hui, was increasingly marginalized, and her influence was slowly slipping away. Meanwhile, Consort Qi's son, Liu Rui, was gaining traction. The court, once divided between the two women, now found itself at a crossroads. The political intrigue reached its climax when Liu Ji was forced to make a final, desperate move to retain her power, with the backing of her supporters in the military and among the court officials. She launched a bold coup to secure her son's position, but in the end, it was Liu Rui, backed by his mother's unwavering determination and the growing discontent among the court's officials, who emerged victorious. The final battle for the throne was a brutal one, with both sides suffering heavy losses. But in the end, it was Liu Rui who claimed the throne, and the Han Dynasty was forever changed. The downfall of Liu Ji marked the end of an era for the Han Dynasty. Though her son, Liu Ying, had been the rightful heir, it was Liu Rui who ultimately ascended the throne. The legacy of Liu Ji's rule, however, lived on in the empire she helped create. And though Consort Qi had emerged victorious, the political landscape of the Han court had been irrevocably altered, setting the stage for the future struggles that would define the empire for centuries to come. And so, the Han Dynasty entered a new phase, one shaped by the actions of the powerful women who had fought so fiercely for control of the throne. The empire would endure, but the scars of the past would never fully heal.